We all love discounts and sales promotions, but do we respond to them differently when we are in a crowded shopping environment versus when it's less crowded? Hi, I'm Amrit here, co-founder of Core Voice, and in this episode of Core Insights, I want to share findings from a paper published this year in the Journal of the Academy of Marketing Science by some professors of Hong Kong University, where they explored the impact of crowding on effectiveness of sales promotions. So they got around 200 undergrad students and then sent them to different rooms. Now some rooms had only 4 to 6 participants, while others had around 20-26 participants. This was to create a relatively crowded environment versus less crowded one. Now all the participants were shown an ad to join a gym, right? So some were shown an ad without any special offer, and then their intent to join was noted down, and they were then shown the same ad but with some promotional discount offer, and again their intent to join was noted. This was done in the reverse order also for some participants, right? They were first shown the gym joining ad with some offer, and then they were shown the ad without the offer and then asked, would they still want to join the gym? So what did the researchers find? The participants in uncrowded setup responded twice as high to sales promotion compared to those who were in a crowded setup, be it the increased desire to join the gym when an offer was given or the decision to not join when the offer was taken away. So what explains this? As per the researchers, typically in a crowded setup, we get zoned out and so focus more on our internal thoughts. And because of this, the external impact of promotions goes down, right? Because we're lost in ourselves. In fact, to test this theory, they got another 180 or so participants and did a similar experiment like the last one. But this time it was a headphone ad. But this time, around half of all participants were also asked to read some sentences that were specifically designed to help the participants really focus on their internal feelings. These were sentences like, they were supposed to read lines which were something like, I would like to focus on my feelings and thoughts, right? So two things emerged from this experiment. One, people indeed find it easier to focus on themselves in a crowded environment compared to when it's not crowded. And two, when our internal focus goes up, we are actually less affected by promotions. In fact, the researchers also did conduct a field study using regional population density as a parameter and found that in regions with say higher population density, the impact of sales promotions on actual sales is lower compared to impact of promotions in less populous regions. That's an incredible insight, I believe. But do we always focus more internally when in a crowded environment? The answer is no. And the researchers came up with at least 2 scenarios to test this. One, when we are doing shopping to buy a gift for someone instead of shopping just for ourselves. And two, when we actually seek a crowded environment, like say when watching a cricket or a football match. Non-aversive crowding, compared to when we don't really enjoy the crowd, right? Aversive crowding. Let me explain the gift-related finding in a bit, but as you may have guessed, when the crowding is non-aversive, right? When we actually enjoy the crowd, then we don't zone out as much as we typically do in a crowded setup. And so, we end up being impacted by sales promotion. And this was pretty much the finding when these researchers did an experiment with around 350 participants. To stimulate non-aversive crowding, the participants were asked to imagine being in a bar to watch a football match, and to simulate aversive crowding, they were asked to imagine trying to enjoy a piano performance in the bar. Now, to find out the difference in our response when buying for ourselves versus when purchasing a gift, about 240 participants were shown an ad for a backpack. The researchers found that when we are buying gifts, then our response to promotions is pretty much the same whether we are in a crowded environment or uncrowded. And the logic, as per the authors, is that when buying a gift, we are thinking of many things, right? What the person needs, what do they like, etc., etc. And so we are not able to focus too much on ourselves. And since the reason we typically get less impacted by sales promotions during crowded environment is because ultimately we are focusing internally in such setups, when that default internal focus is taken away, let's say when we are buying a gift, then we end up responding to promotions as well in a crowded environment as we do in an uncrowded one. Pretty interesting, right? Anyway, hope you found these insights useful, though I do think that this episode got a bit crowded by way too many insights, but happy to share the full paper if you want to read it yourself. just ping me. At Core Voice, it's super important for us to be abreast with latest findings like these around consumer behavior, so that we can do a great job at story-led marketing and brand consultancy for our clients. See you soon with some more insights.